Gita. Very good morning to all the participants, respected Vice Chancellor, Honorable Vice Chancellor of the University, Professor Sanjay Srivastav, uh, my friend and esteemed uh, Dean of the University, Professor Mathili Ganju, uh, my young friend, Dr. Aman Vats, and all esteemed heads of department, faculty members, research scholars, and faculty from across the country who are participating in this very important deliberations. Uh, World Television Day greetings. I've been closely associated with television for pretty long time. From the print media, when I switched over, I was the South Asia Bureau Chief, India Bureau Chief of People of Indian Origin Television. Subsequently, I was with Z. I was a director there. Then I went on to become editorial consultant with Asianet News Television, and subsequently, I was senior consulting editor with Doordarshan, India's public broadcaster. So I've been on the television circuit for pretty long time, and television has become an integral part of my life, so to say. And perhaps there could not have been a more apt occasion today. It's a little bit unfortunate, but the fact is that today the whole country is debating, particularly after the Prime Minister withdrew the farm laws. An entire discussion is taking place across the country on what was the role of the television during the entire farmer agitation. Because Television Day is not just to celebrate the tool which was invented by Bade, but I think it is the impact of television on our everyday lives. That is the purpose of celebrating or commemorating World Television Day. That how does television impact us as a people, as a country, as a society? That's important. Now, from that point of view, we have been hearing a lot of debates about television in this country. I would like to take a holistic view because there is a paucity of time, and I'm supposed to be addressing another national media conclave in Bhubaneswar immediately after this. Now, I wish to say that, in the last 1 year itself, if you look at it, what has been the discussion about television? You had the Sushant Singh Rajput case, which was widely discussed. You know, Riya Chakravarti, widely discussed. And now, footage of, I don't know, so many hours on Aryan Khan. And then, of course, from over the last several months, the coverage of the farmers' agitation. In fact, more than the television discussions in television, it is the discussion about television that has been dominating the media discourse. And this is not a new phenomena, as some people seem to suggest when they are discussing that. I think that when we discuss about television, we are only discussing, unfortunately, about news television. Please remember that only 7% of the television audience, entire television audience in India, watch news television. That is something we should remember. Only 7%. Of the 1,000 odd channels which are there, only about 300 channels are news channels. Of this 7% television news watching population, there is only 1% which watches English news. Yet they continue to claim that they represent the nation, the voice of the nation. Do they? Remember that it was Doordarshan which heralded television into this country. It started as an experimental television for a couple of hours in a week, and then got into a couple of hours in a day, and from a terrestrial to a satellite mode we went, and then it became a 24 into 7 affair. And television has played a significant role in our lives. The television anchors, I won't call them anchors at that time, they were only news readers. They were into other businesses, but they were casual news readers, but they were celebrities on their own. They would only read from either the paper in front of them, the Salma Sultans, the J.V. Ramans, the Meenu Talwars, the Rini Simon Khannas, they would have the papers in front of them, and the Shammi Narangs, the Avinash Kaur Sareens. I mean, I can remember so many names which come to my mind. Or they would read from the teleprompter in front of them. Subsequently, we shifted to news television following it was the Asiad which was a turning point. When color television was introduced in the country, it was a turning point. And then once color television was introduced, television became a national obsession, a national aspiration. Everybody wanted to have a television. The Gulf War took the war into our drawing rooms, our bedrooms. And then the post-liberalization, the airwaves following a historic Supreme Court judgment, the airwaves were no more in the control of the government, and we saw the launch of Indian television channels including Asianet in South and Z in North, in collaboration initially with foreign players like Satellite Television Asia region known as STAR, STAR. And subsequently we saw programs, television programs. Aaj Tak was just a program on Doordarshan. The World This Week by Pranoy Roy was just a program on Doordarshan. And they all became independent channels. They were the pioneers. And then there was no U-turn. And then came the commercialization in a huge way. And what is now known as the trivialization of media. With the trivialization of media, we saw television going initially to reach out to maximum number of people, what was then and continues to be called the TRP race, the television rating point. I remember one of my students those days, he came to meet me, he was working for a leading television channel, and I asked him that, so by now you would have made contacts, good number of contacts, because I always believed that an apple a day keeps the doctor away, a source a day keeps the editor away. So You have to develop sources. And I remember my young friend, my young student telling me, "Sir, I have made sources in the graveyard, in the cremation grounds." I said, "Who?" He said that the ghosts, the ghouls, the spirits, because that was what we was being covered on television. The bhoots, the pishats, the you know, the spirits. Then you had people like, Rakhi Sawant, Malaika Sherawat, who were prime time for some time. And that led to the term trivialization of media, where these people continued to hog the limelight. Their stories continued to hog the limelight of television, particularly the language television. Uh, English television was a little more sober uh, comparatively, but the language programs, particularly Hindi, was dominated by all these things. And they were that what was called the TAM meters in a nation of 100, million plus. The television rating points were decided on the basis of couple of thousand television audience meters, or the TAM meters as they were known, installed in select cities. In fact, they had kept out the entire rural areas from that, as if they don't matter, because the whole race was for advertisements, for commercials. Of course, they were the bread and butter of television. And you had all these people who were doing everything possible to get television rating points. It led to many court cases, litigations, and then came a body which was created with representations from the government and the industry, called the BARC, Broadcast Audience Research. And the BARC also enhanced the television meters from across the country, even in the rural pockets. But unfortunately, the allegations of bias and the allegations of paid viewership, came to limelight. Last year also there were serious cases involving channels like the Republican Times Now, and how television audiences were paid and made to watch certain televisions to show high rating points. So the entire exercise continues to remain in the realm of suspicion. And we are still not sure. Everybody claims to be number one. Who actually is number one and why they are number one? Overnight, television channels come and they claim to be number one. What is the basis? Television reporting, particularly live reporting, came for a lot of questioning. If you remember, Mr. Kejriwal, currently the Chief Minister, used to hold press conferences every day. And every day, in every press conference, he would make very wild allegations. Subsequently, he would issue a letter repenting, regretting, and saying sorry. But he, being a politician, he can make wild allegation. But should we, as a responsible media, should be carrying it live? Then came the term spit and run. You can spit on anybody and run. Should media become a tool in the hands of politicians And should live live coverage of press conferences, should we do it wherein allegations are wild allegations are made, and are we able to, because at at stake are reputations built over the decades. Should we allow that? And this is not referring to one particular politician, it can refer to any, I mean, because this was widely discussed, I am only talking about those points which came in for big discussion, huge discussions. Another point where television coverage was hugely criticized, two points basically. One, during the peak of terrorist violence in the country, including blasts, one major allegation against the Indian television, news television, was that the kind of blood that was being shown. Examples were given that in the World Trade Center, when hundreds of people are believed to have perished, did the American television or the global television focus on the dead bodies and the blood and the mutilated parts? Did they show it? Whereas, why Indian television is showing all those bloody images which tend to strengthen the hands of the forces who are creating such terror? Because the object of terrorism is not to kill a few people. The objective of terrorism is to terrorize the society. And by carrying such messages, see blood splattered roads and buses, public transport, and people, relatives, the near and dear ones, the kith and the kin, crying, are we sending a message that we are indeed terrorized? The terrorists have succeeded in their mission of terrorizing the society. We in India are a resilient society. We have since witnessed centuries of, onslaughts, assaults on our civilization, on our culture, on our people. We have seen so many invaders and marauders, yet, as Allama Iqbal famously said, that there is something in us ki hasti mitti nahi hamari. That despite all the efforts, the Egyptian civilization, the Mesopotamian civilization, they have all disappeared. But we continue to remain, we continue to be alive and kicking. There is something in us. Isn't it that resilience in us that should be highlighted rather than the success of the conspiracy of a few that should be highlighted? There have been questions. Then came 26/11, wherein the anti-terror operations, particularly at the Taj, was widely disseminated. And it was found, it was seen that the masters from across the border, who were the handlers from across the border, who were guiding these terrorists, they were getting live footage, watching live footage on television and watching the commandos slithering down a particular position, and they were, through their network, informing the terrorists of the movements of the commandos, and which led to the death of a few commandos. I think that, and the way in which they were covered, where there was no need to crawl on the ground, you saw reporters crawling on the ground and reporting in different positions and postures. There was more drama, less of substance. Similar was the case in Kargil, where irresponsible journalists, some of them, in their effort to get some exclusive, put on some camera lights And the result was that the lights attracted the enemy to target that particular position, which led to the killing of some soldiers, of Jawans on our side. You had instances which were worrying. It was felt that the kind of debates which were being, you had then terms like, you know, trial by media, wherein in the evening prime time we would have kangaroo courts where we would declare somebody as an offender, as we would pronounce someone as guilty without following the procedures. Is media the authority to decide on crimes? Can they declare on the basis of some superficial reporting? Even if it is investigative reporting, is media entitled to conduct judicial proceedings and declare somebody guilty? They have done it with the lives of a lot of people. I know that media played a very important role in highlighting corruption at high places, in highlighting, the some very important cases where justice would not have happened but for the intervention of the media, like the Priyadarshini Mattu case, or for that matter so many cases involving crime against women. But having said that, should the media arrogate to itself the role of judiciary, or media should be an enabler for justice, a facilitator for justice? Where there is a miscarriage of justice, it is the media which should point out, not pronounce, draw the attention of the judiciary. And judiciary has, from time to time, responded to media reports and taken suo motu cognizance of aberrations. Passed a directive without any public interest litigation, without any legal cases in front of them. They have taken suo motu cognizance on the basis of media reports. The judiciary that way has been active. So much so that you have terms like judicial activism. But media's job is to inform, educate, entertain, inspire, but not to sit in judgment. How far is it fair? Then the superficiality of the debates. Is it about the common man? Is it about the marginalized? So when in Mumbai, if there is waterlogging in Jalsa, the residence of Amitabh Bachchan, or Manas, the residence of Shah Rukh Khan, you have the entire media focus. Jalsa mein pani bhara, Mannat bhi doob gaya. But what about the victims of flood in states like Bihar, Assam, where lives and property to the tune of hundreds of crores, precious lives are lost? Are we focusing enough on their plight? Or is it that waterlogging in Gurugram is more important than the floods, the devastating floods in the Brahmaputra or Kosi? This is something that we should all think about. The media should ponder over. I think it is also important that the language of the media, television, should the language of the television be aggressive Should it resort to warmongering? Or is it the language should be, the language of the media should be that of moderation. The language of the media should be that of restraint. The language of the media should be that of peace, fraternity. These are issues which we need to ponder over. And television has immense potential to bring about changes, to be a catalyst of changes. We have seen the power of television during the lockdown. I told you yesterday also in my inaugural address how the repeat telecast of the Ramayana and Mahabharata created world records. Can we harness the power of television to bring about massive developmental, changes at the grassroots level? Because even today, in spite of the dominating presence of the digital media, it is a television which continues to hold sway over the Indian public mind. More and more television sets are being bought. In fact, there has been a 7% rise if you look at the statistics. People are going for television even today. If you look at the basic indicator of the popularity of a media is the kind of investments that the industry makes, the advertisement industry makes. And if you go by that, even today, more than the digital and the print, it is the television which gets maximum advertisements. There's a huge growth in language television. Even major television operators are now launching their language platforms. Whether it is Bangla, it is Malayalam, Tamil. People are wanting to see news, information, obtain information in their respective languages. That's why when I was a Director General at IIMC, I gave a major push to language journalism. We started the Marathi journalism from the Maharashtra campus, the Malayalam journalism from Kerala campus, upgraded the Urdu journalism to a full-fledged PG diploma program, launched even a certificate program in Sanskrit journalism. So much was the kind of emphasis that we gave. Today I am so proud to say that today these are among the most popular courses at IIMC. The Marathi, the Malayalam, they continue to draw a large number of where the ordinary, I felt that the biggest achievement was that in my life was not becoming DG or becoming VC or getting the Ganesh Shankar Vidyarthi Award from the Government of India or any other thing. For me, the biggest achievement was when a young journalist, a young boy from the Vidarbha region of Maharashtra called me up and said that, "Sir, we are grateful to you forever because I, studying a student of a village in Vidarbha, could have never imagined studying in the prestigious IIMC because I was brought up, I studied in Marathi medium. But for the introduction of the Marathi journalism course by you, I was able to study in this prestigious institution." That I felt was my biggest achievement. That gives you immense satisfaction. I think that today, because the common people are able to connect to language journalism, and there lies immense potential. That is where we need to focus on. And then the grassroots journalism. Is television reporting what is happening on the ground? Television will have to echo the sentiments of the people at the grassroots level, and the grassroots level are no more the grassroots level of the past. Believe me, they are driving the economy today. FMCGs are going into the rural areas in a big way. Malls are coming up even at the district level. You can see the biggest brands in the smallest towns of the country. You can see that. That change is happening. And today, the advertisers are willing to chip in. And that was the Professor Ganju would know, that was my research also on the growing, impact of language television, of language media. They are investing because they know that is where the growing market is. There is a huge shift in the advertisement cake, the pie. People are shifting to language television in a big way. That is one trend we all should know. The development journalism should not be confined to the public broadcaster alone. And I am happy to some extent. Yes, we lost a lot during COVID. But what I found as a television professional satisfactory is the fact that television started venturing into the rural areas to find out the conditions of the primary health centers, to look at the delivery mechanism of the vaccinations, the role of the ASHA workers, the condition of the farmers following the migration, mass migration of laborers. That the media started looking into, and that is the positive. Because I look at a picture holistically. It is not good enough to sit and criticize, but also look at the positive trends that is happening in the television. Television has realized that not only its audience, target audience, but also the people are today no more just obsessed with politics. People are equally concerned about their health issues. What gives me immense satisfaction as somebody who designed India's first public health communication course along with UNICEF, Thomson Reuters Foundation, and Oxford University. We designed, Mitali was there with us at that time, the Critical Appraisal Skills Program. I had gone to London to finalize that. Public health communication has today become a very important part of journalism today. We remember weaving it into our curricula at that time. And today, public health communication has become an integral part of media. Every media today reports on health like never before, on education like never before. We have never reported. Have you ever heard the Prime Minister of the country deciding on the CBSE results? That is the importance of education that we are seeing today. And the media is also talking about the digital divide, how people are today finding it, difficult to join the online courses in the remote rural areas, the tribal pockets of the country. So development journalism has started making its way slowly but steadily into mainstream. It's no more I would say, the domain of Doordarshan alone. Because Doordarshan has been doing a commendable job, no doubt about it. But Doordarshan has been involved in a one-way traffic. It is only disseminating the government programs and the schemes, but there is hardly any feedback mechanism, and that's what private television is doing. How is the change? What is the impact on the people, and how are people responding to it? What are the grievances of the people? I saw a series of stories recently, and I was so happy to see that, what is happening at the ground when it comes to Ujjwala Yojana. I mean, huge. The Swachh Bharat. Lot of money the central government is spending on these programs. But what is the impact at the ground? Is it reaching the common man? These are stories that are today being covered in media. Maybe you and I may not be watching those programs, but they are coming up in language media, in Marathi, in Malayalam, in Bangla. We need to see that. So let's not judge Indian television by watching a few television channels centered operating out of the NCR. Indian television is huge. And when we are talking about World Television Day, television, Doordarshan has played a critical role in preserving and promoting our culture, our music, our dances. Believe me, there was a time when the rulers, the princely states used to promote culture. But after that, the responsibility fell on Doordarshan. You have A grade artists, B grade artists, C grade artists. These artists were graded and promoted on television, on radio by the public broadcaster. And that way we were able to nurture a lot of talent post independence. So Doordarshan television's role should not be confined just to news. Television has played a very important role in promoting folk art, folk culture, in promoting, folk songs, folk traditions. They have played a huge role in development communication. All India Radio has played a very critical role, from informing the fishers out in the seas, high seas, about impending disasters, to reaching out to the farmers with information about new varieties of seeds, crops. These are areas which we should know have played a very important role. Television has played a very important role. I'm sure that World Television Day, I hope I have not taken more time than what was allotted to me, but I believe that World Television Day gives us an opportunity, as I said, not just to celebrate the tool but the content. It is important to look at television, the important role it can play in transforming our society. It continues to be a major source of dissemination of information, entertainment. Let us all work together to ensure that the quality is enhanced. And let me just conclude my World Television Day address with two suggestions. One, there is a saying which says that if you pay peanuts, you will get monkeys. If you want to have free to air television, FTA, then don't complain. If you can pay 400 rupees for a packet of popcorn, you should be willing to shell out some money to watch, to pay some good channels. Sometimes it is pathetic to see, some really good channels you can get for a month for 1 rupee. Some channels I have seen some channels like Epic, which are doing wonderful work in promoting, all aspects of our country. But they are hardly seen because they are not FTA. You need to pay. Abroad, you get to see only pay channels. At least we should be willing to pay. At least those of us who can afford to pay. 2, let us not be passive audiences. Please remember that an enlightened electorate is the hallmark of an effective democracy. Similarly, for an effective television or an effective media, you need enlightened audience. Let us all strive to be that and not just remain mute spectators. Thank you so much for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on World Television Day today. Please stay connected through our social media handles. Namaskar.